I'm going to give you the reason why what we're doing tonight is the case, and it's because when I might have mentioned, I don't know if I did, the night we had Cheryl Richardson here, the day before I came down with, or I tested positive for COVID, and then went through about a week and a half of the process, basically. And so did more or less everybody in my family too. So it was Patrick's weekend, I reckon, had started it all off. So Trina Hanlon, as you've all met her and you know her, she does all of the holistic therapies and practices, and so she's the person. The one person, she's a go-to person for any information that you might need on any kind of holistic therapies or practices. But Trina very kindly came straight back and said, Trina, if you need any help with your recovery, for a recovery plan, and to build yourself back up again, just have a word with me and I'll be here. And you know what? I thought about that, and I thought, well, I'm coming across so many people with COVID, recovering from COVID, have family members with COVID, have issues with COVID. And I mean this in that they may be living in fear, real fear of COVID. And so what I wanted to do was, maybe, whilst we don't overdwell, as you all know, on COVID lockdowns or anything else over the past couple of years, I just thought we need to do one night that may actually just bring us some new information. I'm just letting people in as we're talking. Some new information, some new ways of looking at things. Some of us can be quite very much on the side of, mainstream medicine, and your heart and soul is with that, and that's good. Others may be very much the explorer of holistic, Eastern, Chinese, Ayurvedic, and all kinds of other holistic medicines. I know nothing about those. So I just think it's good to hear some things about holistic practices. I think it's something that, even if it's not for us, you may hear something that makes a little bit of sense that you might like to go and explore. But at least you know that when you choose whatever you choose, you've had some idea of what it is that you're working with. So that's why I thought it would be really good to bring Trina in to talk to us about that. But I also want to invite you guys to come in and ask any questions you have. Share your experiences. Tell us about how your recovery is going if you've had it. Talk about people you know if you'd like to, without naming them, obviously. And if you've got your own tips and ideas about, getting back to thriving good health, that's a really good plan too. I've said to you, and I know of others who have come through it and done really well. And what surprises me is, normally when you've been really sick, it is so lovely to feel well when you come through it. It's always a wonderful feeling to feel, that's over and I'm back to myself again. And for some reason, what I'm hearing from a lot of people with COVID is that they go into a kind of low mood afterwards. Now, I don't know whether that's because of the, what we may have been taught about COVID and what we think we have survived, or whether it really is a part of it. And maybe it isn't something that you're experiencing at all, but I'd really like to hear other people's experiences with it. So with that in mind, we're going to Trina in a minute, but I just want to tell you what Tricia Hennessy has sent. Tricia, as you know, at this time of the evening, she's still recovering from her very serious leg injury. At this time of the evening, because she's been walking all day, as you know, she's running her bed and breakfast, and it's packed full with people, thank goodness for her, all week, but she's exhausted with the pain in particular. So she has sent me what she was going to talk about. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read it to you. And it's her bone broth. Her bone broth is what she considers to be a cure. And the background to this is that her father was a butcher. She grew up knowing every corner and inch of every being that was to end up in a butcher shop, and how to use this meat for its best possible use. So Tricia says this. She says, simple to make, bone broth is simple to make, and cooking time takes an age. That's where all the goodness comes from. It's low and it's slow, with the addition of pure cider vinegar, and that pulls all the collagen from the bones. That's where the magic occurs. So then she's going to be doing up 3 recipes for us later on, not now, and that will be chicken broth, vegetable broth, and beef broth. So vegetarians, vegans, and people who don't particularly like beef or red meat, there's going to be other varieties. She says, in my childhood, I remember being dispatched on my bike with a flask of beef tea to ailing neighbours. My memory tells it was made with shin beef, a cow's hoof, and garden vegetables and medicinal herbs. It was on the back of the cooker for 2 days, being topped up with water, eventually being strained through muslin until the treacle-type liquid emerged. It was an all-time cure for all diseases. Tricia says the bone broth is good for us because it boosts immunity, alleviates common colds and bronchitis, fights inflammation, strengthens bones and teeth, promotes weight loss, I like that, builds muscle, improves mood, anti-aging, what's not to love about this, can improve sleep and helps normalize stomach acid, which is useful for colitis, celiac disease, ulcers, and other inflammatory gut conditions. I will add, if you have any concerns about that yourself, always check these things with your doctor first, because you know your own body best. But that's what Tricia believes it works for. For decades, food manufacturers have been trying to sell us energy drinks, over-the-counter drugs, antibiotics, weight loss potions, and energy pills. In her opinion, there is something you can take for better health in mind and in body, and it's none of those things. It is bone broth. And she hopes that this will be useful for all of us. I'm just letting Gail in there. Hi, Gail, and I hope you're able to get through there all right. I've just read out Tricia Hennessy's bone broth story, and I'll pop that up on the community page, so anyone who's missed it can read it for themselves. So, I mean, that's really interesting. I know she hates the idea of, God forgive me for saying it, glucosate and other things, because all it is pure sugar, but she really firmly believes in bone broth. So we'll have recipes for all of those at some point, not just now. Lovely to see you, Gail. Thanks for joining us.
My internet was down.
Yeah, I know internet's down all over. And forgive me for jumping in here. I was down in Duns today, and everybody's credit card got stuck in the machine, and nobody's vouchers were working, and there was nothing happening. So I left. Luckily, I was using cash, but I can't imagine what it was like afterwards. Anyway, I want to go straight to Trina. Are you there, Trina Hanlon? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, hello. Nice to see you.
Hello, everybody. How are you, Trina?
Lovely to see you. Thanks so much for coming along, and thank you for that lovely, kind text you sent me when I did need to have that. And I'm just wondering, did you have COVID?
No, I didn't have COVID, but some of my family members did. But no, I've been so lucky so far. Yeah.
Thank goodness for that. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people who have had it, and I think there's a lot of things that, as you're saying, that are in common. The fear and then kind of the rush to try and get kind of better quickly, which is a bit of a problem too.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because many of you know Teresa Alford, who joins us regularly as well, and she was for many years an end-of-life nurse and medical practitioner and carer, and she's now a Reiki. She works in the field of Reiki and healing in that regard. And she was saying that one of the biggest problems is that people were being encouraged back to work after their 2-week break, only to find that they were actually still recovering and becoming exhausted very quickly. Very much a part of that low mood that I was talking about hits as well. And she was saying also that some people don't feel that ill with it and feel really guilty about taking time off, but their body has a very important job to do, and that actually is working against them. She's finding that people are frustrated, and it's actually impeding their robust good health. They may be recovering from the virus, but their own health elsewhere in their, within them is being affected.
I think you've said two things already. You mentioned kind of about low mood and about grief, with COVID. And then you were saying about kind of the rush, and we're not listening to our own body. But with COVID, it affects the lungs, and the lungs are actually part to do with grief. So that's our organ that when we're dealing with grief, it's our lungs it affects. And that's why some movements, when you move your arms out, it just helps to open the lungs. And it's as we grieve, we go down and we hunch down. So it's a balance really. And then also it can affect, when it affects the lungs and it affects the liver, this time of year is the liver time for cleansing, if you're looking at Chinese medicine or if you're looking at Ayurvedic medicine. But even in Irish medicine, it's the time when people go out picking nettles and they start, the bone broth is really perfect because that is part of supporting our kidneys. And if our kidneys are strong, that's the base, and then the liver, and then the lungs. So it all it's balancing and harmonizing everything. So, and the emotion, when you're actually, if you're feeling frustrated or if you're feeling angry, the emotion, like those are the emotions that affect the liver. And then at stages with that as well, then there is an exercise called Paldan Gom, and it's a Korean and sort of Chinese exercise. When they were taken over by the communists, there was 3 exercises they were allowed to keep, and this was one because it kept everybody's whole systems balanced, kind of between their sort of endocrine, their lymphatic system, circulatory system. It kept everything proper. And it's only 6 minutes, a very simple exercise to do. But with the, it releases then for grief. But then often when we are low mood, we lose our voice, we lose our confidence. And that's one of the exercises, is punching with angry eyes. And you go, ho, 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 ho. And it's a very simple exercise, but it's getting you to get your voice back and to be heard again. Because, as we get sort of, we lose our confidence, and then also with that, then we can become very fearful.
Can I just, before you go on to fearful, can I get back to voice? Because I think there's a number of people will resonate with this. One of the things a lot of people are suffering with is their voice isn't strong afterwards. Now, yes, I know that happens when your lungs are affected. Our voice isn't strong, but they're literally losing their voice. And that's taking a long time to come out. My own, many of you know Katie, she has had it. And one of her things is she's got this husky voice that just doesn't, not coming back.
Yes, absolutely.
So you're saying, because I love that what you're saying. So this, I kind of punching with angry eyes.
It's part of the Paldan Gom, and it's punching with angry eyes, but the eyes are actually connected to the liver. So it's all very much connected when you look at the whole body, that if the liver's under stress, and when we're tired and we're feeling a bit low, we reward ourselves. Well, I do. You reward yourself with chocolate or tea or biscuits or something that doesn't really.
A glass of wine, Trina, as well. Some of us might.
Well, yeah, I'd be more the chocolate and food. If it's not such a good idea, but when you actually learn what's good to eat, and really for the liver and for the lungs, like drinking, I just saw you drinking water there, warm water, sipping, boil. In Ayurvedic, what they would do is they would advise people to boil their water for 10 minutes, put it into a flask and sip it throughout the day. And that just keeps the phlegm and everything kind of moving the whole time. But if you add in lemon to it, it'll help as a detox for the liver. But if you add in ginger, it'll add sort of more pungent, and it'll bring more heat, which helps the lungs. So there's different things, like very simple things you can do, but just really after COVID to introduce, maybe cooking, and you'll be surprised, there's some gorgeous recipes out there. But if you start with a base of, say, ginger and onion, garlic, and then add in a few spices like cumin or coriander, the spices, and make that as a base, and then add in your spinach or chickpeas or whatever. It's when you eat that type of food, immediately it warms you internally, and you start to feel, it's like every cell in your body is going, thank you. That's what I needed.
What you said is really quite funny, and I'm sorry for interrupting you there, because as you're speaking, I'm going, yes. Recently, thanks to Trisha Hennessy, we had a gorgeous meal here, and it was full of those spices and really good things for you. And my husband had a grin on his face from ear to ear, and I looked at him and I said, what? And he said, that meal has just made my belly so happy. But he was actually talking about really feeling happy as a result of the food.
Absolutely. And this time of year, again, because we're coming into the spring, the colors are green and daffodil yellow, but so it's leeks and rhubarb. And there are some lovely, Joanne Faulkner, who was a guest on your,
Yes,
last year, she
yes.
has a lovely rhubarb salsa. And it's just delicious, and it's you ferment it, but it just, again, it's something you just eat, and you just feel, your body feels good after. It's that hit when you eat something chocolate, like a chocolate biscuit, goes up and down, spikes, whether this is a nice even kind of warming, and it's warming the internal part of our body. And often what we will do is we will eat, in Ireland, we have damper insides because we eat a lot of dairy, but the dairy dampens us, and we need sort of heat and fire, like the spices, to just dry us out. So it's like trying to, I live in a very old damp house sometimes in Wexford, and in May it gets really damp inside because it's getting warm outside, and it gets damp inside, and it gets musty, and that's what happens inside us. So we have to heat it up and open the windows and let the air through, and and that's why the movement kind of comes in with it, as well as the diet. But sleep is very important, and rest, because our bodies will, if they're given the right circumstances, they will recover. But we've gone so used to not listening to our bodies. We're so used to getting up at the same time, doing everything the same way each day, rather than saying, actually, what do I need today? And listening to what your body is, because your body will say if it's cold or if it's hot. It'll tell you if it's tired or if it needs exercise. But if you tune in with your body, that makes a massive difference.
Trina, I'm thinking that there's a real place for what you're actually talking about here, because as you're talking, I'm seeing that, yes, I more or less from experience, I know that that's this particular virus, and many of you will have experienced others that have lingered on, and not just COVID and that, but that it's important to take the time to literally just surrender to it in a sense. But then also, having done that, we tend to think we've recovered. But what you're saying is our body then needs the really important part, which is all of the things that you're talking about. It'll shut us down anyway when we're ill. It'll make us sleep. Fatigue is a huge part of COVID. It'll make us sleep. But afterwards, what you're saying is that these things that you're saying, the foods that you're talking about, the movements that you're talking about, and it doesn't mean going out for a jog and out to the gym, and the the water and the liquids that we're taking in, the warm drinks, and also the sleep and the routine that you're talking about. It's almost as if we need to then, because when you said to me, I'd like to, if you want, I can help you with a plan for recovery. This is what you're talking about. There really should almost be a plan for recovery.
Absolutely, and very simple, and not expensive, very simple. Like the warm water, the reason in Ayurvedic medicine they would boil the water for 10 minutes, it softens the water so our cells will absorb it easier. But not only that, then when we're absorbing it, our bodies, we have myofascia, which in Ireland was only about 4 years ago, it was as accepted as an organ, but that's the bit that holds all our liver and our lungs and everything in place, and it's all underneath our skin. And it's kind of like the lymphatic part of our body. The lymphatic system will take all the toxins and put them in different areas around your neck or under your arms, or in different parts. We store up this, but we have to move to make it disperse. It's not like the circulatory, like the heart. We have to physically move. So that's why movements that are very gentle movements, not harsh, fast movements. So people, you need to just do very gentle movements and listen again to your body, that you can't just, if you were normally running 5K, maybe just twists and bends that'll help your liver, rather than straightforward movements. Do something that'll twist and that'll stretch kind of, in between your intercostal muscles there, so you can breathe kind of better. So there's sort of things that before you get out of bed, I have a neighbor at home, and he's a farmer, and he says only, sick animals get out without stretching. A healthy animal will always get up and stretch and move. Before they move, they'll stretch. So before we even get out of bed, to stretch in the morning is a nice, and even just your knees up to your chin to stretch out your back, because it's keeping the fluid if you're having craniosacral therapy, that's from your cranial down to your sacral, down to the bottom of your back, there's 150 ounces of, or 150 milliliters of fluid, but that only goes from, it changes 4 times a day, but that only goes with movement and breathing. So if you don't breathe properly and use your diaphragm, which most of us don't do, it doesn't work. And then it gets stiffer. So it keeps it moving. So we just have to keep, the breath work is very important, to breathe, really good deep breaths. And that's why singing is such a powerful thing. If you're able to sing in the shower or something, just to sing, just to, but again, shouting or doing the angry eyes punching, it's kind of a good practice, to find something that you can just do it. You'll find something you like yourself, turn your favorite song on and sing, or something that'll just lift you as well. And putting your hands above your head, because that helps with the lymphatic system, because it'll drain things. But again, we don't, if we're feeling a bit depressed or low, we will go like more instead of going up. But we need to just do gentle kind of movements to release it, kind of like that,
And would you suggest something like, I know, Gail, I know you do, and I know a number of others do as well, a qigong or a, yes, yeah.
The qigong is very gentle. The tai chi is more for defense, but the qigong is very much working with the energy. And same with Joanne Faulkner, when she was doing it, she teaches you the medicine and the food as well. So it's a lovely group to be part of as well.
Yes.
And then the capacitor is another group that they're very good for. For example, we were talking about fear. The capacitor thing, there's a very simple thing called finger holes. And in Chinese medicine, the meridians come down, they go in lines. In Ayurvedic, it's more in circles, in different chakras. But in the Chinese, it's lines, meridians. So each of them come down. So when they come to your hand, the thumb, if you just hold your thumb, that one is for grief and emotion, strong emotion. This one, your index finger, is for fear and panic. So when you're feeling fearful, and often if you look at children or if you look at people, they will automatically hold it, but you just hold it for adults, it takes maybe up to 5 minutes, but you'll feel the energy traveling through. That one, you can guess what that one is. That's anger.
That's back off, is it?
Yeah, that's anger. And that's the one back to the frustration and the liver, and then that one is worry. The ring finger is worry.
Okay.
And then the little finger is low self-esteem. And if you watch people, this would be from the Indonesian culture. So it's something we do, and we do it automatically. I had a friend who lost her husband unexpectedly, and she just said to me, that she had started sucking her thumb again. So it's something that we do automatically, and we don't realize why we're doing. But that's the meridian, and that comes up to the heart.
Yes.
So it's kind of, again, we're only learning so much about this. It's quite interesting.
It's fascinating. You are a fount of knowledge. I mean, honest to God, I'm almost thinking you should have a little thing, like you work with Swift Care or something, where people can contact you during the day. What will I drink? How much of it? How should I?
The problem with all of these things is that there's no, doctors don't make money out of telling people to drink warm water. They don't make money by telling people, if you're tired, go to bed. Again, with the Ayurvedic medicine, they would have times of the day you eat and times of the day you rest.
Yes.
And they would say, eat when the sun is high. So we used to do this in Ireland. We used to have our main meal at lunchtime, and then we would rest. But if you're eating your main meal at night, in Ayurvedic, they'd say eat at lunchtime. And then by 12 o'clock at nighttime, your body's digested the food, but it's repairing. All the bits that go into repair are repairing our cells. But if we eat late, those things that normally repair our cells are busy digesting food, so they don't get time to repair our cells. So we eat very little. It's like eating, you eat at lunchtime when the sun is at its highest, and then eat very little in the evening. When I went to the Ayurvedic doctor, I was saying, oh, okay, so will I have scrambled egg in the evening? She goes, no, that's too much. And I went, what? So it was very, very little.
What did she suggest?
Well, it was back to more grains. One of the dishes that I would use would be Herbie millet, and that's just millet with it's an old grain with thyme and onion, and it's very tasty. Or else it would be more back to dals and rices and very plain kind of food. But you'd use spices more than, it wouldn't be like meat that you'd have to digest it.
Yes.
But you can make it quite flavorsome, like using courgette or using, different things that will, a carrot grated into it. But it's very light kind of food that's easy to digest. Or semolina would be something that we used to eat years ago, but that's actually quite good for our eye health.
Is it really? I love semolina. I'm the only person I know who loves semolina, actually.
Semolina with a bit of cinnamon in it, all of these have, they just have different bits that just help kind of regulate things. Yeah, just
I'm making notes here because so many of us are glued to computers all day long, and our eyes actually, over time, you do find it. I'm going to have a bowl of semolina from time to time. Listen, I'm loving this. I just want to have a look. Have we got some messages here? Okay, so Anna Marie, you're saying, hi everyone. I'm drinking a vitamin drink in my glass. Lol. Cheers, Anna Marie. That's great. I've got a herbal tea. I forget what's in it, but it's nice. It's manuka honey and something else.
Oh, lovely.
Mary, I think due to the overload of information and COVID, fear comes in the belief if we get it, we have a disease that is going to destroy our brains, lungs, etc. forever. On the other hand, virus and flu were there for years, or 4 years ago, and people could be down with those for weeks, and it was only referred to as an awful dose. I couldn't agree with you more. And we would do, as Trina H is saying, take the time, take home and holistic remedies and rest. And I completely agree with you. I know, and this is with real respect and genuine understanding of people who are scared. But I have met more people in the last couple of weeks, double masked, absolutely terrified. Literally, if you mention you've had COVID, they take 3 steps back, even though you're well over it. And this is not. This is because they have been, we've all been living with the real absolute terror in a lot of cases of getting it. And I remember in the very beginning of it, my heart going out to families where people were staying in their bedrooms and being brought some food by other family members, and they would take it in. And, there was this awful sense of anyone who's read books about the plague and that would have this real feel that this was part of it. And what I'm wondering now is, we had constant feed of information all the time, several times a day, with updates many times a day. And then we fed each other whatever information we had as well, because we were all trying to learn as much as we could. And now there's almost no information, and also almost no understanding of how to live with this in our society. So we have people with real fear, a hangover from the very beginning of this and their experience throughout it, and others who have kind of gone, you know what, I'm actually just going to not pretend it's gone, I'm just going to live my life as best I can. And can I just say, coming back around in full circle, that's why I love what you're saying, Trina. And I think the more of us who hear this kind of information, where we can take our power back, where we can take control of our lives and do the very best we can, and then and learn as much as we can. So that's a great big speech.
And with the fear, that's the emotion for the kidneys when they're out of balance, is fear. When it's out of balance. So an awful lot of us, we automatically just rub our backs, and that's really good, just to warm our backs, just to rub your back and just stretch like that. But that's part of it in the Pal Dal Gom, exercise. You hold onto your back and you just stretch as well. But there's things we know how we do them, but we don't realize the health benefits that they're part of, which is wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just empowering us. It's empowering us.
Yes, that's what I think is so good about this. I'm really glad we decided to record this, Trina, because it's really important. So, and Mary, thank you for that. If you want to come back in and say anything about that, please do. You're very welcome to unmute. This is a discussion this evening, which I love. Anne is saying wonderful information, Trina, and thank you so much. And she's so right. Anna Marie, Trina H is great. This is great. It is indeed. Mary, Trina, this information on movement is brilliant. And Mary also says that's why we need information, like what you're saying, Trina, using your points of movement and tips on diet and drinks. I couldn't agree more. Can I ask, does anybody want to just come in and come back on what Mary was saying there, or any of the people who've made comments so far, and then we go back to Trina for a little bit? Just come on in, don't worry about it.
Okay. Hi everybody.
How are you? Anna
Good.
Marie, there you are.
Good today, but to get back to what Mary was saying, yeah, from the very beginning, I didn't listen to all the information and anything, but I've had my 4th vaccine and I'm heading for my 5th vaccine. My immune system just keeps dropping. So it's at a dangerous point at the moment. But that doesn't stop me from going out shopping or going up to my second home up in Belfast. So, you know, just it's sort of, I have to watch out for crowdedly enclosed spaces. So every time I think I'll be able to go back to going to the theatre, consultant says, no way, you know, that sort of way. And it's
not just yet.
Not just yet.
You're taking all of you're taking your power, you're taking all of the precautions you can. And are you happy with that? Is that something that sits well with you?
It does. It was hard to do. And you know what I went through last year, Trina. But the thing is, I've been doing the stretches, as Trina has said. I've been doing part of eating what you said there, but you've given me an awful lot of information.
Hasn't she?
And I love semolina in the evening instead of a dinner. I think that is just gorgeous. So now, since the hubby took over the kitchen, since he retired last year, we're going to have our dinner at 1 o'clock every day.
Oh.
That's my rule.
I know, and Mary's laughing.
What is it? What's that rhyme? Breakfast like
a king, lunch like a prince, and tea like a robin.
Like, oh no, we used to say like a pauper.
Yeah. I like Sinead's version, actually.
Thanks, Sinead. I'll start doing that now, saying Robin, all right.
Excellent. And well, do you know what? That's really good that your approach is quite a positive one. And Trina, if you don't mind, I'm just going to read out. It's an anonymous email that somebody had sent to me beforehand, and she says that she's extremely nervous about getting out again. She has multiple health issues and is on immunosuppressants. That's really important to know. It's making her very vulnerable. Any kind of crowd shopping, walking down the street, household gatherings have this person on edge, and recently had to make an appearance at a party and was really very nervous about that. Having worn her mask and keeping a distance, refusing to hug, she was very worried that people would think she was being rude. And you know, they're saying, should we took a test? Aren't we all right? What are you afraid of? But she's really very nervous. And next week she begins the whole return to work process, and she's really very frightened. Does anybody, now Trina, I'd love to hear if you've got anything that might be, you know, of help there. Yeah. And obviously, if someone's on immunosuppressants, they have to be really careful.
Really careful. And I think you have to be very compassionate with yourself, you know, and love yourself and do what's right for her. Because I think the mental health for people going back to work, she's very courageous going back first. A lot of people wouldn't dream of it. So she's courageous to take the steps and to keep herself well and to be aware of what her needs are. But that's what I was saying, even to do the back to the pal down gum, something that she can use her voice and not be apologetic about it. You know, she has as much right to be and to be protected, but it's to value herself, you know, and again, when she goes back to work, you know, if she has been out of work for a while, she'll naturally be very tired. So just to be gentle with herself and to rest when she needs to rest. you know, and it's to listen to her own body.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I would advise is, like, I also would do massage therapy, but if you can't go for a treatment, there are some treatments out there which just help with the nervous system. And even if you can't afford to go for a massage, there is one where you would literally just go from the top of your hand down and then come back up that way, up like that, and just even do that. And it'll just, or even just some way of calming herself down, but it's just to calm her own nervous system, you know. And that's something that there's a thing called Abiana Massage, which you do yourself, and you just massage warm oil over your body yourself. But it's just even the touch of touching your body, or, you know, if you're just like to kind of, you know, just do a little bit on your head and then just down like that. It's just to sort of, or even like that.
Yes.
But just to calm yourself. Your ears are a wonderful place. You know, if you have a little tiny bit of oil, and just a little bit of oil, and just rub your ears, and just rub all around your ears, because like reflexology, your ears represent each part of your body. But if you like, that's something that she could do when she's feeling very anxious, you know, a little bit of oil. And when you have a little bit of oil on your ear, you know, if it's, you know, you can use sunflower oil, or you could use sesame oil, you know, the treated one, or any lavender oil, but just something that'll give her a little bit of calm, you know, to, you know, her anxiety, just to bring her nervous system down a little bit.
I love that, and can I also add to that as well that it's hard enough taking care of yourself and what you need to do to keep yourself safe, in particular when you really are someone who needs to take a good care. But then when you start worrying about how other people feel about what you have to do for yourself, you really are loading something on. So maybe it's really important to that person, and she maybe you'd see, to be aware, to make a very conscious decision not to be affected by the opinion of others, not to be affected by their behavior, and simply to state your own boundaries, your own.
Absolutely.
And live within that. Don't get worked up about it. Don't do anything other than go, you know, this is what I'm doing for me, and I totally respect what you're doing for you, but this is how we do. Because one of the things of this whole thing is that it was very divisive.
Yes.
And as soon as somebody had an opinion that was either outside of mainstream or totally pro mainstream, there was always, you know, an opportunity for conflict. And this is very much a healing part of it, where we need to, you know, just come back together again and start being really, I think, thoughtful and respectful and caring about how other people need to move forward.
Compassion is very
Compassionate,
important.
exactly. Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because the divisiveness is a whole other thing that can really cause us a lot of trouble. So if you are that person, make that rule for yourself now, that you are not going to be affected by the opinion of other people. This is what your choices that you make for your good health and safety, and that is to be respected. If it's not respected, you know what, you don't need to be around those people.
That's very true.
100%. Oh, does anybody else have anything now? Can fear, Elizabeth, that's a great question. Can fear affect our immune system?
Yes, it will. It'll deplete it affects our kidneys, and it will deplete our energy. And it actually, the kidneys then will actually go back to our ancestral energy as well. And there's actually, there's an exercise, a Japanese exercise called doing, where you would do a lot of knocking and tapping on your body. And it's again balancing, and it's like a piezo energy, so it's very good for strengthening our bones. But one of the exercises, you're on the floor and you lean forward to touch if you can touch your toes, but it's stretching out your back. But it's getting rid of that. We hold the emotion and the fear in our hips, particularly as women, and that it just gets tighter and tighter. So these, just to relax and to move our hips, because that's where the emotions get very much blocked.
I like that. A little bit of tango or a little bit of belly dancing or something, a bit of a swing.
Well, even just to do circles, kind of just to do little circles, you know, like that, you know, and then get bigger circles like a hula hoop. But it just loosens it up the area and it keeps the spine supple as well, because if the spine gets fused, everything kind of, you know, it's like I say in the myofascia, everything needs a little bit of movement.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be mad, strenuous movement, but just a little bit, just to keep everything flowing. Yeah.
Trina, you've put a lot of, this is what I love, a lot of threads in people's minds that I feel people might want to follow up on that curiosity. Do you have courses that you're running? Do you have a way that
you can contact me and I'd be delighted to share whatever I can do to help. And I'd be, but I don't have any courses at the moment.
When you have time and maybe, you know, when it's something that you do actually get time for, because I know you're extremely busy, but it would be super to have a go-to post viral recovery package for people to do. All of these things that you've mentioned this evening are fascinating. I'd love you to talk lots and lots more about them. And I know that there's people smiling and nodding there behind the screens. Please, I don't want to turn anyone off. Please, if anybody has anything to ask Trina, now's a good time to do it. There's lots to follow up on. I'll give you a moment or two if anyone wants to come on there.
Can I ask a quick question, please, Trina?
How are you? Yes.
I'm good, thank you. Trina, you just mentioned capacitor briefly, and I'm somewhat familiar with capacitor, and I'm just wondering if you could just maybe give a little more detail on it. I have looked it up. I know capacitor there's Capacitor Ireland, and they have a website, and they have the finger holes, and there's an emergency kit on that, but I'm not 100% sure with how to implement the emergency kit, if you like, quietly, you know, without bringing too much attention to yourself if you need to use it. Could you just give a little more on that, if you could, please?
Absolutely, Jackie. Yes, capacitor is the Spanish word for empower. So it's to empower, but it's to empower healing for ourselves and then healing for our world. And it was originally developed by Dr. Pat Kane, and she lives in California. Now she comes back to Ireland and she trains. The capacitor training is usually in Marino College, and it's the most wonderful thing to do. And you learn together as a group how to. What she actually did was she was in Nicaragua when the war happened, and she was doing a certain program there, and the people said, we don't want the program, we want what you're doing. So she used to have a morning routine of things that she would do to keep her system calm and to help her cope. And so she ended up sharing it with the people there, and then it developed, and she just kept adding on to it and getting all the different ways around the world that people use, how to heal themselves, how to calm themselves. And she put them into a program so we could learn how to do it. But the finger holes would be one of the first things in the emergency kit. Then there's head holes, where you can actually do it for somebody else, or you can do it with somebody, but it's probably easier for somebody to do it for you than you do it to yourself. And then she would have things where you can do tapping, and tapping would be for emotional freedom technique. And tapping, you would tap at different parts of your body, and it's really to change the neural pathways in your brain. And when you change the neural pathways, it just changes how you think. A long time ago, I went to a kinesiologist, and my thing was fear and self-sabotage. So she just kept saying tapping. So I was tapping like this. And each time it came to, I unconditionally love, accept, and respect myself, I kept saying it the wrong way. I kept saying, I respect, accept, and love. And she's going, no, you say it this way. And I was going, I am saying it that way. But my issue at the time was I wasn't respecting myself. And no matter what way I was saying it the wrong way, because I needed respect, but I needed to learn how to respect myself. So it's fascinating, but a lot of the things, they're so simple and they're so easy to share, and the Capacitor Ireland is a wonderful group. And at the moment, you know, when you become part of it's a global thing. So, you know, we're actually supporting people in Afghanistan who are, you know, women in Afghanistan. Then there's people like with the tsunami in Japan, you know, but we're all learning from each other. So, you know, and even now with Ukraine, there's a lot going on with that. So it's a very simple, but definitely I'd encourage you to look it up. A lot of things online that are just very simple. There's a lovely one I would use a lot with groups, and that would be the Tai Chi, but it's Tai Chi Chuck. And it's a lovely one. So it's about looking after yourself first and then looking after everybody else. But you have to feel yourself first before you help anybody else.
Okay. Thank you very much, Trina.
I hope that helps.
Good question, Jackie. And actually, Mary's saying, Trina, are you a capacitor practitioner?
Yes, I am.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I would also do SMOVI, which would be movement for people with Parkinson's. So that's kind of for balance and movement and coordination. So it's a wonderful thing to do if anyone's having any trouble with coordination or movement.
And movie, and you know, that's very interesting because and Tricia doesn't mind me saying this, one of the things in her recovery is regaining her balance, because
I must give it to her then. It's super.
Yeah,
that's great for people with constipation, because part of Parkinson's can be a side effect is constipation.
Yes,
but it works with a vibration, so it's a 60 hertz vibration, and it has a weight and it has a noise with it, and you're moving different ways, but it's good fun. But it's originally it was the Austrian man. He was a professional skier and tennis player, and he was 55 and he got Parkinson's, and his friend, you know, used to get him to walk, and he'd walk with the tennis rackets and he'd be swinging them to move them, and then they didn't work, so they put weights and they cut the tennis racket. So that's how the SMOVI was kind of invented. So, and he is still alive and he's still moving, and that was a good while ago. Unfortunately, the person who developed the SMOVI, he passed away, but it's quite an amazing, and you can use them for massage as well, because they work on the vibration goes through your body as well. So they're lovely.
Fascinating how many things you're talking about that actually occur as a result of the sort of the person who brought it about, following their own intuition about their body. You know, and yet, and this is something you said earlier, you know, you're saying that doctors, there's no money in anything but medicine in a sense, but an awful lot of us go to the doctor and we sit there until we get a medicine, a pill, something, feeling that without that we're not. So I think maybe we need to empower our doctors as well to feel free to suggest these things to us, and maybe to explore them, because we're co-creators in our own good health, and we too often we hand ourselves over, and then the next thing we do is we own the condition, you know, my diabetes, my you know, migraine, my, you know, whatever it is, rather than this condition that I'm dealing with, I'm working through. And I think we have to be very aware, particularly as we get older. You know, it's not my sciatica and my arthritis, it actually is a condition that we need to learn to work with. So so that's a part of it too. Does anybody have any more questions for Trina here? Because it's fine. Elizabeth is saying, where is your practice?
I'm based in Naas, but I'm also based in Wexford. So I'm kind of between two places at the moment.
Right. Well, what we'll do is, if it's okay with you, we'll put up your details, and then anyone who wants to contact you, or even just because I know you well, you will actually point people in the direction. It's not necessary. You have a lot of skills and qualifications and areas that you work with incredibly, but you will also happily point people in other directions. And you bring in people like Joanne and her Joe Flow program, and other people as well, which is a really generous part of what you do. Okay, does anyone, I don't want to close it unless you've got any more questions for Trina. All right, are we all okay there? Okay, yeah, lots of nodding.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait for you to come back to us again, because that would be just so interesting. Does anyone have anything about COVID that they want to share, or their own, you know, sort of cures and things that you found has helped you Has anybody got that, or others? One thing I will say, and it is a product, was that when my Katie had it here, her lungs were particularly badly affected, and she's very fit, but she had to lie on her tummy to give her lungs some relief. That was the only way that she found some days that she could breathe without pain. And a person who came to our house said, "Oh, we use the Calpol plugins to for their children," and they sent us over the plug-in and the little things. They like the, you know, the mosquito tabs that you get when you go abroad, and you pop them into this plug and it warms the room, and the vapor from it was so soothing and so healing. Now there are other ways, I'm sure, of this, but just for anybody, anytime I meet somebody, they say, "Oh no, my lungs are really fat," I go, "The Calpol plugins are great." So that, you know, that's just one thing that I've been passing around. Has anybody got anything they want to share or pass around, or tips or things they found or discovered?
Does anybody remember using Friar's balsam?
Balsam.
Friar's balsam.
Friar's balsam. And what do you do with that then, Anna Marie?
It's illegal now. You know,
Is it? Lovely.
You know, when this lovely EU came out and said no St. John's wort and things like that.
Yes.
But I grew up on Friar's balsam, and I also had to use it for the children as well. Talk about clearing the lungs. It was fabulous.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Well, having said that, then there are other people come along and tell you stuff about putching that would.
Oh God, no.
And the cures involved with them.
No, Friar's balsam was put a few drops into a bowl of water and just leave it in the bedroom overnight.
Okay. Well, we go out now. And are you pushing this on the black market now, Anna Marie, or anything?
Oh no, I can't get it anywhere.
Okay.
Can't.
Keep an eye out for it. So
I don't think I'll ever get it right.
Listen, I've got a couple of things I'm going to do before we finish up, but I just want to say thank you so much to you, Trina. This has just been so generous and so enlightening, and the fact, you know, the capacitor idea being so empowering, and all of the things that we can do for ourselves. So I'm going to be back to you as well, I think, but I certainly can see a lot of smiling faces there too, and many people so grateful to you for sharing your wonderful knowledge.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Not at all. And you stay
Thank you, Trina Hanlon. Thank you.
Not at all. Sarah Dixon is saying, thanks, Trina, very informative. And Gail is saying, thank you so much. This is true. I'm just going to briefly go to something. Susie, as you know, Susie Woods, who is our gorgeous angel lady, cannot be with us for the moment because she's suffering serious problems with her internet. And I think those of you who know her regularly will know that it's often a very grainy reception that we get of her. So she's still waiting on that to be fixed. The angels are up to something there. I think maybe she needs to finish her book. Perhaps that's what's going on there. But I've drawn 3 cards for us this evening. I did it before we came out, so please forgive me. And I'm just going to does anybody want to do, those of you who want this, does anyone want to pick 1, 2, and 3? And we'll do that with the cards this evening. These are 3 cards from the Gateway of Light activation. It's Kyle Gray's, and they're gorgeous. I might have mentioned before, they're very beautiful images on these cards. I absolutely love them. I'm still getting used to them. So I've written some notes. So if you've all decided, okay, so you're thinking, it's very interesting. There's a lot of 2s coming up and 3s. Okay, Dorota. My first session, who's that? Lorraine, Lorraine, welcome. I'm so glad your first session has been so enlightening. Thank you so much. I meant to say that to those of you who are new to us here. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so now 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so I'm going to go with the first card, which is the Lemurian Seeds Code. The Lemurian Seeds Code. And that card is embracing sensitivity, uniqueness, and living with grace. This card really is asking you to embrace your weird, basically. Honor what it is about you that is unique. Stop hiding behind it or creating a shield around you. Let me have a quick run. Very often sensitive beings will do this, and this card is particularly for, if you've chosen this card at 1 and you're a very sensitive being, there's a good reason for that. It's saying this is a lifetime in which you drop the giant shield which you tend to hide behind. Embrace your unique qualities. Don't be afraid of them. And the sensitivity is often very much, you're afraid that somebody else will see what is so incredibly bright and shiny about you. So you keep, you keep kind of hidden and on the duller side. It's not about hiding, but stepping into the space of surrendering and revealing your true self. Embrace your weird, be who you are wholeheartedly, shine your light wherever you are. And this, in this particular deck, it's saying this is the lifetime that you get to do this. So maybe if you're harboring some plans or ideas or sort of secret little wishes. And I love that one when I'm doing workshops and I ask people about this. I go, what's the secret thing? Very often what they come out with is something that even the people who are closest to them in their lives didn't actually realize about them. Whether they're, they want to be a singer or a writer or, go and live in, Tahiti for a couple of years or pursue a healing career or whatever it is, something a bit secret about you. Right now, if you chose number one, have a little look and see, is there a secret wish, a secret part of yourself that you've been keeping very much to yourself? Well, it's time to embrace that and get out there, shine your light really bright. Okay, card number 2, Star Being Healing Codes. Now that's a bit, let me see, can you see that? I'll put them up on the community page, okay? It's quite bright, this one. It's really shining. It's important information. Wounds are healed, recharging. That's really interesting in light of what we were talking about this evening, excuse me. In this world can seem overwhelming right now to some people, but it's okay to retreat to a safe place to recharge your energy. That might be really important for some of you. If you chose number 2, this is a real message to you. You may be called to be a healer for others, but ensure that you are balanced. Let somebody in there, sorry. Excuse me. Ensure that you are balanced and filled with your own light first. Now, Trina mentioned that earlier in one of the practices, maybe it's capacitor 2, that you need to make sure that you are filled first, that you are not pouring all of yourself into other people and at the expense of your own energy and well-being. Do not sacrifice your own well-being in order to serve others. You are receiving healing from light beings at this moment, and they are washing away stagnant energy standing in your way of freedom and wholeness. It's important you stay alert for intuitive guidance so your body can be restored to full health. So that's quite interesting. Stay alert to intuitive guidance. So this may well be that you heard something that Trina has said here this evening that you hadn't really ever considered. That may well, for some people, that will go right over their head and they go, oh no, that's not for me. I don't really get that. And for other people, it may be the one thing that you have needed to hear to start you off on a whole new way of exploring your own empowerment, your own wellness and being sort of in charge of your own good health and well-being. And number 3, so that's if you chose 2, which is interesting given the night that was in it. And number 3 is the Akashic Stargate, Akashic Stargate. And that is aligned with purpose, crossroads, and no wrong path. There is no wrong path that you can take at the moment. You are at a critical point in your journey. There are opportunities to move in a particular direction, and you may have choices to make. And what may happen is that you might be waiting for other people to make those choices for you, or you may be waiting to see, before you make the choice, what's going to best suit everybody else before you work out what suits you best. But this is saying there's no wrong choice. It's got to be yours. You must choose. Otherwise, you keep getting an opportunity again and again to make a choice that's going to further you in your growth in this life. You may be waiting for someone else to make the decision for you, but this is your path and your journey. Whatever direction you take will be the right one for you. Also know that purpose isn't about doing your duty. That is just decency. That's just your duty. Very often is something that we naturally sense and then we follow through. But that's not your purpose. Your purpose is always going to be something that excites you, lights you up, empowers you, and makes you feel joy. That's your purpose. And when I come across people, sometimes they go, well, my purpose is that I've got, obviously you've got people you need to care for who may well only be well cared for if you're taking care of them. That is very much a wonderful opportunity to serve people. It doesn't have to be your purpose. because it will always be something that excites you. And it may well be that you are excited about caring for people. That is great, and that is true. But your purpose is something worth exploring because it will feel joyful and empowering. And that's your 3 cards for this evening, 1, 2, and 3. I'll put them up on the community page and you can have another look. And I hope maybe that means something to 1 or 2 of you, which would be great. And if it doesn't, that's okay too, because it may well be, this is going over a fortnight, so it may well be that it'll come back to you again. So the second last thing I'm going to say to you is that in the end of May, we'll conclude the Tuesday Night Club until the end of the summer, until perhaps the end of September again, because it's very much something I think that is a kind of good companionship, and we keep each other company throughout the winter. But once the summer comes along, we've got other things that we need to do. And so listen, 7 o'clock on a Tuesday evening, we need to be out down the beach or having a barbecue or whatever else it is that you'd like to do, out walking or something. So we will finish up. But just to let you know, in 2 weeks' time, we have Sarah Reynolds from Organized Chaos. She is going to come in and talk to us about getting order, bringing some real, getting rid of clutter and making some real order. So it's going to be kind of in keeping with a good spring clean. So maybe you'd like to think about that and come back and find out what kind of tips she has. She has a super website and newsletter, and it's probably worth having a look at her as well before you come back to meet her. She's written a super book and seems to be very popular. So I'm dying to hear what she has to say. It's really time for a good old, as you said, Trina, open out the windows, get rid of the clutter. Let's get some freedom going. And shake off the old and welcome in some new things. Maybe we've been living in our home very, sort of contained. And there's a sense almost that the energy can get stuck and we can feel trapped in that. So maybe getting Sarah in to talk to us about that might be a great way of breaking free and bringing some new light and energy into our homes. The following fortnight, which is the middle of May, I have somebody I'm really excited. I'm always excited, but I'm really excited to meet this. I have often mentioned to you the lady, Dr. Jill Bolt Taylor, who wrote My Stroke of Insight. And she also has Whole Brain Living, I think is something else. She's a wonderful story. And one that I'm always talking about when it comes to recognizing that we are energetic beings, because this is coming from a woman who is, her basis, her whole sort of work has been in neuroscience. She is a neurologist. She is a neurosurgeon. She has worked in all areas, and she had, at quite a young age, she was only in her 30s, a major stroke which destroyed quite a lot of her brain at the time, or the whole of her left hemisphere. Her recovery is striking, but it's not what you think. It's a completely different kind of story, and it is all about energetic frequency and how she came to that. So I'm looking forward to her coming in to tell us her story and to talk about her new work, which is Whole Brain Living. She is a regular on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday. She has countless YouTube videos. Go look her up and bring your questions to her. She's coming to meet you guys, the wise and ageless goddesses of the Tuesday Night Club, because when I told her about you, she went, I love this. I want to come and meet these people, and I would be delighted. It sounds like fun. So I'd love if you come and bring your questions to her. Listen to what she has to say. Trina, you're saying her TED Talk is worth watching. It absolutely is. It's one of the most viewed TED Talks ever. So I think that's 38 million times or something. I don't know. And then finally, on the last week, I have Catherine Greer is coming back. Now, most of you remember she came in and she talked to us about her 2 books, The 10-Minute Fix and Small Steps Are Perfect. I think that was what they were called. That she's got a whole new, she actually wants to come back to us because she's got a whole new story to tell us and something very interesting she'd like us to do. And I can tell you more about that closer to the time, because there's a little bit of an embargo on her new story. So we talk about that closer to the time. But she loved meeting you so much that she's actually, all the way from Australia, she wants to come back and talk to you again. And she's got some nice things for us too. So she will be our final evening at the end of May. So that is more or less that, except to say that for any of you who would like to do a workshop, I am preparing a new one for the beginning of June. I've got to get the dates right. It'll be in the United Arts Club over a weekend, a Saturday morning right through to Sunday evening. Lunch will be provided. And for anybody who needs overnight accommodation, is very reasonable. You can arrange that in the United Arts Club. There's some very reasonable for Dublin City Centre accommodation. And that is going to be all about that midlife upgrade, living magically every day. But how do you kickstart that? How are you going to recognize what it is what we were talking about earlier, what it is that you want to bring into your life, and how you can go about it by living magically every day. And we will go right through that from the beginning to the end over the 2 days. I know some of you who've done my workshops before. I'm going to say it is a joy for me to do them, because when we come to the end of them, always, if anyone's in any doubt about their blueprint for how they move forward, they have that, and it's rolled up and it's under their arm, and they can't wait to get the first morning underway, which will be the following day, that Monday, after you finish. So if you're interested, let me know about that now. I'm going to start taking names, and we'll register you for it, and I'll have the dates of that in the coming fortnight, I think, at least. But I'd love for you to enjoy that. So looking forward to seeing you all next time. And thank you so much, Trina. Thank you so much for being here this evening. That has been so great. Thank you, Anna Marie and Sinead and Jackie and all of you who contributed and asked questions, and those of you who are...
Trina, could I just make an observation about the cards?
Yes, love. Yes, please do.
Just last week you took out the Aborigine card.
Yes.
They took out the Lemurian card, and just say that that's where we're going back to. They were very sophisticated beings, and that's where we're evolving back to, and creative perception, living in the moment, knowing the moment. So it was interesting that you took the two of those cards out.
Yeah, thank you for that observation, Sinead. Do you enjoy exploring the cards as well? Is that...
No, not at all. I practice metamorphosis, so yeah. So just obviously Robert St. John was Australian. He was very clued into Lemuria, but he thought it was only under Australia, but actually goes much further. But the Lemurians were so sophisticated and way ahead of us. But that's where kind of we're going full circle back to.
Okay.
Know the moment, be creative in the moment.
Yeah. And we have this opportunity now to seize that moment, really, haven't we?
Yeah.
Oh, Sinead, that's really interesting. Anytime you want to contribute, please do. Any of you, because I know there's a lot of you who are all very talented. You have wonderful stories and information to share with the rest of the group. That's what the community page is about. And anytime you want to come on and share it, that's a lovely nugget. Sinead, thank you so much for that. But anybody who wants to, please do. That's what it's here for. And when we come back, in September, I think we, really get it going as a real community for ourselves, because I just find it really interesting that people such as Jill Bowe-Taylor, Cheryl Richardson, Tony Gallardi, and Genevieve Davis, and all of the other lovely people we have, including you there, Trina, and all of our guests here, are happy to come and talk to us. And it's a lovely welcoming place. It's got an energy all of its own. We leave here and we go out and we share the information, the news, the things we've learned, and we maybe even go and explore something for ourselves that we hadn't thought about for ourselves, that can really be quite enriching and empowering. So I'm quite excited about this, and I think we can only get better. So again, thank you, all of you. It's no good without you, but do keep sharing what you've got there. Okay. And Laura, you're saying thanks for a lovely, interesting evening. Lorraine, love to know more about thank you. Thank you, Trina and all of the rest of you. Thank you so much, everybody. Take good care of yourselves and start taking time to heal and rest and nourish and nurture and thrive, because that's what we're going to be doing from now on. Okay, take care of yourselves.